Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. We are having a look at some more vehicles which are on sale in the summer sale. There's a lot of packs for Russia that are about, so I thought we'd cover them in one video so you can have a think about them and see what you want to pick up. The first vehicle we're having a look at is the T80 UE1. This is their high rank, high BR MBT, which is on sale. Every nation nowadays has a vehicle like this. You know, you have like the clickbait, you have the Leopard 2A4M, you have the TDUE1, you have the OES, and all of these things. And the TDUE1, I'd say, is in a pretty nice place just because of the fact that it's a T80. The T80 series of vehicles for Russia is easily the best out of them. And the reason for this is because it gets a better reload. It has the 6.5 second instead of the 7.1, and also it can actually reverse. So you can get into a position pretty quickly, and then you can get out of it as well, which is quite important. The reason why this vehicle is 11.7 instead of 12.0 is because it gets access to the 3BM46 instead of the 3BM60. That's literally it. Otherwise, this thing would just be a 12.0 vehicle. It does have access to some Contact 5, which is all over it, which is the kinetic protection ERA. Generally, it does work pretty well. You also have some on the roof, so it helps you against CAS a little bit. But it's, you know, a standard Soviet MBT. So basically you have all the weak spots, the low glacis, you have the driver's port, and then you have, of course, the gun mantlet. But it's a little bit harder to hit on this thing because obviously you have a lot of coverage of those areas. So it takes you a little bit of time to actually tell where you're shooting, which can give this thing a little bit of an advantage. The other part of it, which is kind of nice, is the fact that the gun has a little bit better of a horizontal speed. One of the things that kind of is annoying about a lot of these kind of Soviet vehicles, though, is the vertical. You see here, the vertical guidance speed on the gun can only get up to 4.4 degrees per second. Now, just to give you like an idea or a comparison, if you have a look at, I don't know, something like the Leopard 2A4M, you can see here that it is at 40 degrees per second. And this is actually a big difference between, once again, the 11.7s and the 12.0s for good old Russia. You can see here on the T80 BVM, the vertical guidance is so much higher. It's at 32 degrees instead of the 4 that the T80 UE gets. So that's something you have to learn how to play around because it can be incredibly annoying to use because of that. It's something that makes it super detrimental for new players to get into. But if you're a veteran player, of course, you can work around that. But is this a solid premium to pick up? Yeah, of course it is. You know, it's a top tier banger and it's going to be fantastic. And if you've ever played the T80U, you know how good of a vehicle this one is going to be. The next vehicle is the BMD 4M that is on sale. Now, this vehicle didn't really take anything by storm. It's a little bit odd because the standard BMD 4 is actually really strong. It's incredibly mobile, and also at the same time, it just flies around the place. Whereas this BMD 4M, it's a little bit less mobile. You know, it has the diesel 500 horsepower, it has an okay transmission, but it's not as good as the other one. So basically, you just have like a slightly worse version as a premium compared to the event one, which is right here, which is a little bit more nimble and a little bit more mobile. But it does still have a lot of the factors which make it nice. You got the crazy thermals, you got the APA DS, you also have access to the 9M117M1 tandem ATGem, which just has a fantastic ability of overpressuring things when overpressure is such an annoying mechanic. You also have the laser rangefinder, you got scouting, you got drones, you obviously have the smokes so you can reposition. I feel like this one is just in a very odd place because of the fact it has a very limited amount of survivability. So therefore what ends up happening is people try and play it too aggressively like the standard BMD4 and then they just get caught out. But as an actual scout, I think it could actually work pretty well. And if you have a look at 9.3 for Russia, which, you know, is a pretty stable BR after they put up a lot of premiums to 10.7 recently, you basically have the T72, the T64, you have the Pancake Tank, you have the 2S25, then also the ZSU 23-4M4. So you do actually have quite a nice lineup around this vehicle that you can bring along. Another thing to also mention is at this BR, one of the problems you have is really bad targeting speed. You know how we talked about before about the T80U? Well, it's very similar to the MBTs that are around this BR for this, but you can see here this one actually has an insanely good targeting speed. So you can basically just fly around the place and just hammer things as you go, which are really nice, especially with the thermals, which once again, a lot of Russian vehicles struggle with at this BR. So this vehicle gives you access to a lot of factors to really do well, but I just haven't seen anybody do well in it yet, which just seems a little bit odd. So does it have the potential of being great? Yes. It's a little bit let down by its mobility, a little bit let down by its survivability, but I still think it's a fantastic vehicle to add to that 9.3 lineup. The Su-39 is also on sale. This one is kind of a tale of two halves. So at the end of the day, it's a strike aircraft, right? And as a strike aircraft, if you're playing something like a realistic or something like that, you're really going to struggle in terms of like your speed and also in terms of kind of the dogfighting or kind of doing anything in the match. But you have R-73s. And since you have two R-73s, you can basically just be annoying as hell when you face actual fighters at the BR that you'll find yourself at. Also, more recently, they added the Hornet into the game, or the Hornets, and the premium one, I believe, is at 12.7. So a lot of things get sucked up into that bracket right now, meaning that you play a lot more around like 11.0 and also 12.0, which obviously will be a lot nicer. But yeah, you basically get two R-60Ms and two R-73s. These are just missiles just to fire and see what happens, and then that's kind of how you could, grind with this thing in air. But I think one of the major reasons you would pick this thing up is if you didn't want to kind of grind through the air tech tree for Russia, you just kind of wanted a CAS option, because this thing does get access to the funny rockets, which, a lot of people do generally enjoy on these Russian vehicles, like stuff like the S-250s, which just massively overpressure anything they even get near to. It's very annoying facing these things. And then also it does get some guided ordnance. So you get the KH-25 MLs, but you get the cabs, and then you also get the TEs, which are the dumb, annoying TV guided munitions that exist against, that you have to kind of fight. So yeah, it does get the really annoying kind of ordnance stuff. It does also get the Mercury targeting pod, which basically means it's a little bit easier to use this compared to a lot of others. So if you're looking for a CAS option where you can kind of just donk people with stupid missiles, I think generally this one isn't a bad option. Are there better options in the tech tree to be able to fulfill this role, and then also at the same time, be a bit more useful and realistic? Yeah, of course. But if you're just looking for like a quick and easy fix and you don't want to grind through the tech tree, then picking this up is completely fine. It also has an IRCM on the back of it, and around this BR, you're finding a lot of vehicles that will have access to IR guided missiles to try and kill you, and this just scrambles them, basically meaning that they are useless to actually face. So if you are confident in using the targeting pod, if you're confident in using the missiles and then also the big dummy rockets, you'll have a great time. If you want something that's a bit more useful in terms of air or in terms of something like that, this is not going to be the one for you. But then again, Russia right now doesn't have a lot of air premiums that are really good, so not entirely sure where you go from there. The Ka-50 is on sale again. I don't really like talking about this thing too much because it's annoying as hell to face, and I suppose it's slightly got worse over the years, so at least there's that. But the basic thing is it's got crazy optics. It has the Vikir missile, which is one of the most annoying missiles to face at the BR it's at. They refuse to put it up in BR, so basically it faces a lot of AAs that cannot do anything against it, and also this thing completely outranges. So yeah, it's a very powerful vehicle at 11.3. It basically means that you can stay out of the top tier bracket and just donk on a bunch of AAs that can't do anything against you. They have at least added more AAs in to make it harder to do with this thing, but if you're a competent pilot, you won't have too much of a problem being able to guide the Vickers in while also trying to take defensive maneuvers. It's just a very annoying a very annoying aircraft to fight, and therefore it's a very nice aircraft to use. We then have the Object 140. Now this one hasn't actually been in the game for that long, but it's finally on 50% sale, and this vehicle kind of makes me sad because it just feels like it shouldn't have come out at the time that it did, and it should have probably come out a little bit earlier, and therefore it's being overlooked because of the fact that there's bigger and better, shinier vehicles at higher BR. But the Object 140 has a lot of really nice factors to it. If you're looking for kind of not really a wonky, but a prototype Russian MBT, which is kind of similar to what's already in the tech tree, but also has a bit of uniqueness to it, this is definitely the one to go for. Like, you have the 100mm D54TS cannon. This gives you access to a pretty interesting set of rounds, including a heat shell, and also an APDS, and even some APC-BC. You get the rangefinder, so it's not the laser, but it'll mean that you can be accurate at longer distances. You also get access to the artillery, and you also get access to a really stupid machine gun on the top, the 14.5mm KPVT. It would be really nice if other nations got randomly overpowered machine guns on the top of them, especially if they were random prototypes, but c'est la vie, that's only a Russian thing. So you have like some interesting factors, all based on a chassis and also a bunch of armor that should be pretty kind of, similar to what a lot of people are used to. You're also at a BR where generally like it feels pretty good. You have the T55A, the T10M, you also have some like 8.0 stuff like the T54s, all of these light tanks, and then even like the Shilka that you can bring along to kind of add to the lineup. But the problem with this vehicle, as I said, is you have stuff like the T80UD, you have stuff like the 2S38, you have stuff like the T80UE1, you even have stuff like the good old T55M, which only recently went up in BR from where it is. You even have the TO55 that was in previously. So when I look at this vehicle, I just go, why would you buy this? And I suppose it's like there's nothing wrong with it. It's a fine vehicle. It has a slightly longer reload compared to most, but that's pretty standard for these type of like Soviet MBTs. And also it has good mobility. Its armor works very well. Like, everything works well on it. It's just, why would you pick it up compared to some of the other things that exist that can just give you more kind of efficient grind compared to it? And that's where I'm kind of at with it. Will it service you well? Yes. Will you get good KDs? Will you get good win rates? Yeah, as long as the lineup is in the meta. But at the same time, it's just, why would you when there are so many options that are just in a much nicer place? So I don't know what they were dealing with this. I feel like if this had come out maybe a few years previously, it would be a fantastic vehicle. But it didn't, so now we're here. As always, I hope you have a wonderful day. I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank GMG Smiley, CD Beans, Chieftain Mike, EMN3 Galaxy, Tulio Pontecorvo, Brendan Quinn, Carrion Crow, Gus Irenicus, Pyman, Wartinder, Teddy, Daniel Stanton, Martinez, B. Young, Ozzy Panzer, Alan Hacker, Liam Shear, Opium Prime, Lafouche, Sem Aslan, Uncle Bean, and Derek R. for supporting the channel.